Thanks for subscribing to and downloading Plant Talk with your host, Fred Howard. Plant Talk is sponsored by Franklin Park Conservatory and Botanical Gardens in Columbus, Ohio, featuring exotic plant collections and displays, seasonal art and nature-based exhibitions, outdoor gardens, and a variety of educational programming. fpconservatory.org. Now, here's your host, Fred Howard.
Good morning, Ohio gardeners, and what a fantastic morning it is. Doesn't matter what's in the sky or coming down from it, it's another good day for Ohio gardeners. We've had some water through the fall that has helped, but I'm going to admonish you later in the program to, let's just say, keep up that watering right on through fall. I'm going to tease Mark, but I'm quite serious about having to mow his lawn for a long time yet. And then we come down to my birthday having passed, thankfully. Too many of them have passed, but at the same time, that having been said, we get into full fall, anytime from my birthday on the 10th up through now and on in through Thanksgiving. Color starts to disappear. I don't have as many perennials and shrubs and trees in bloom as I normally would have. We got up to a significant high this summer, I think of 48 one time. Most of the time it's around 30 different things, but right now we're down to relatively few. The witch hazel is in bloom. Sometimes those flowers are so insignificant you don't see them until you really cater to the plant in its position or whatever. And the asters are blooming, but pretty much finishing. The wild asters along the roadside are pretty much done. Some of those that we put in for the season aren't. Mums are still holding, by and large, pretty well. Now, it depends on where you are in the state and the exact temperatures you've attained, but pretty much that way. Then I turn my attention personally to, let's just say, fall color. By that meaning, certainly the reds of the oaks and the yellows of the ash, for as long as we have ash, and so on. And yet, driving from place to place, looking at the tree color, I look into a field that hasn't been, it's been a set-aside for a while. It has probably 6 kinds of what we would call weeds in it. They're normal for central Ohio. But whatever it may be, then we add a little bit of bittersweet on the fence along the edge of the road, and maybe a place where that fall clematis, not the improved varieties that we talk about in terms of sweet autumn, but just the old-fashioned climber that blooms in the fall. We see either the few remnants of flowers, but more than likely just those spiral little fruit heads that they set. All of those things can add beauty to our life.
And sitting alongside Fred Howard, the Ohio nurseryman, I'm Mark Neuse. We won't be taking your phone calls today, but we are going to have a special show. We're going to talk a lot about landscaping today with a special guest that Fred will introduce here in just a moment. But, of course, right now, Fred, it's time for your plant of the week.
Well, the plant of the week always, and I probably make a broken record out of this, but it comes this point, and I use it as what I call the closeout. I fight fall tooth and nail because it's the past summer, of course. Now we're officially in fall, and I try to keep holding on to color. And the common witch hazel is my favorite fall plant. Now, I have it in a fairly conspicuous place. Many people use it as a background. If you walk in the woods, some of the older plants that are just natural crosses growing there may or may not have big flowers. They're a soft yellow. They are not great big things like a dogwood, so you almost have to look for them. But when you do, it's something to behold because it's the last color of fall. It's Hamamelis virginiana technically. We don't have to worry much about that. It's a plant that can grow as a large shrub, being 20 to 25 feet tall and up to 30, 35 feet wide. Now, this is a long time in the future because these guys are not fast growers, but they're solid, good growers in our area. They'll grow in our horticultural zones from 3 to 8, so we're well within that range. As a tree, you can make it happen by cutting it to a single stem. Usually as a tree, though, it's multiple stem, up to, well, let's just say 12 feet in a reasonable period of time, and then a long time on up to 20. They flower in October, clear through December, depending on where the plant is and so on. It is fragrant. Your evenings can be enjoyed by stepping downwind from that plant. It grows in either sun or shade, and it's one of my favorite naturalizers for some heavy shaded spots, either as a background or as just simply fall color where it can be seen.
And again, no, we're not taking your phone calls this morning on the program, but remember, you can always go to our website, which is planttalkradio.com, which is chock full of good information. And you can email Fred a question anytime. It's fred@planttalkradio.com. A special edition of Plant Talk this morning as we talk a lot about your doing some planning maybe for the upcoming year and your landscape there at home. We have a special guest we're going to introduce, so stay with us this morning for a special edition of Plant Talk.
This summer at Franklin Park Conservatory and Botanical Gardens, the gardens are in full color. Walk amidst tropical and native butterflies in flight in the indoor Pacific Island Water Garden. View the conservatory's bonsai collection and experience the exhibition Origami in the Garden. Find details at fpconservatory.org.
And welcome back to the program. Mark News here alongside Fred Howard, the Ohio nurseryman. And Fred, why don't you introduce our special guest today?
Well, before I do that, I'm going to go with the word you used just before we closed out that first segment. You said it so fast, they may have thought you said planting, when this morning we're going to talk about planning.
Planning.
Now, it will require some planting over time. But this morning, I would like to talk about how to organize your space, be it an eighth of an acre, quarter acre, half acre, 5 acres, or let's just say truly that giant estate. In any event, it takes some planning to organize the thoughts of what we need to have happen. It takes an interview. And this morning, one of my friends in the industry is here to help us, named David Peabody. David represents Peabody Landscape Group. I have known him and of his work for, I think, probably 30 years now, David. Isn't that about right?
Yeah, pretty close. 27.
All right. That's 27. All right. He came from that same great part of Ohio that I did, way up north along the bottom of the lake. We call it God's country when we're not on air most of the time. We don't want to show prejudice, but that's a good place to come from. Dave's been in this area, and at the same time where his work zone is probably within a roughly 40-mile area of this studio, he can and has worked all over the state. He has done and been responsible for little jobs, down to German village-sized gardens, which are even under an eighth of an acre, to let's just say some very significant-sized projects. So this morning we're going to talk with him and his vast background about what to do to organize your thoughts, our thoughts collectively, in terms of organizing space. And I want to precede all of our thoughts with this. About 15 years ago, I heard a speaker say categorically that if we keep denuding the face of the earth at the present rate, it could be wind speeds of 200 knots at some point in time. Well, he wasn't an alarmist. He was just presenting facts. We're going to try to get our little part of this global landscape into control. And by control, I mean we're going to try to get you around to where you understand what you need to do to organize your thoughts, and then calling a landscape company in, the landscape designer will come in and do an interview with you, which is extremely important. So, David, how do you generally recommend they go about this? So I'm going to start with the fact that I'm telling them right now, positively, they need to organize their own thoughts of what they would like to have. Not in specific detail, but the things that you can help them create.
Well, it's interesting. Each project's obviously different from the next, and one of the elements that I think is first and foremost is looking at the architecture of the building. We're going to be sticking, I think, with residential
pretty much
projects for the most part.
Pretty much so.
With that said, the curb appeals are the first thing that you look to, and one of the elements that is really important is identifying what plants you want to keep, which plants you don't want to keep. Even looking at the main entrance of a walkway to the front of the house, and how you can possibly pull that away using maybe another material, stone material, brick material, that's going to enhance the landscape. And when people approach the house, so that people can see the house three-dimensionally rather than walking along the side of the garage, is one of the elements that we first focus on.
I can't agree anymore, David. It's been back in my career a while, but I was on a real estate program one morning. I spent an hour and a half talking to people about this very factor of curb appeal in terms of giving your home a setting, and then, of course, being on a real estate program, they were talking about curb appeal that you should build so that the house sells quickly. Well, that's all wonderful, but let's talk about, David, if they're not going to sell the house, they're just doing it for their own enjoyment. And where do you go from there? What should they tell you as a designer when you first get together?
Well, first of all, they need to identify what they like and what they dislike.
Okay.
Plants that they favor, plants that they don't favor, colors they like, colors they dislike. And at that point, it's identifying shapes, forms in the landscape so that they can relatively focus on early plants for spring color, and then summertime and then go into the fall as we are right now. Because the one thing we don't want to forget about is fall and winter. That's
right.
In many cases more important than what the springtime is, because everybody expects color in the springtime.
You have just hit on one of the principles that I live with, live by, and have promoted. A situation that is beautiful 12 months out of the year. You mentioned one of the things in terms of color, and you may vary your thoughts on this, but I suggest to people when they're trying to decide what to talk to you about, I recommend that they take a plain old manila pad or whatever it might be, run a line down the middle, put on the left side or right, whichever, what I do like. Put on the right side what I don't like. If you do not like a given color combination, you do not like a sharp, thorny plant, you do not like this, that, or the next thing. Now, so David, if you will, let's just say enhance that line of thought, if you would. What they should do.
Well, again, it always boils down to what they want, versus what they,
and emphasize
they should do
that,
in
what
some
they
cases,
want. That's right.
But what the client wants is what they should get, basically.
Mm-hmm.
The concern in many situations is budget. Many people don't realize what a landscape can cost, depending on if they incorporate a lot of hardscape being stone walls, retaining walls, patios, what's becoming more and more popular today, even outdoor living spaces and fire pits and fireplaces and so forth. So that's what they may want, but categorically you want to make sure that you coordinate the budget accordingly up front. Relative to that, though, I think is a really important consideration that people need to really think about, especially if they're in today's age refinancing a house. They're going to stay in the house for a little bit longer period of time. They're enhancing the house's aesthetics, both interior and exterior, and landscaping is a topic of discussion that they want to address, is give consideration to maximizing the total amount that you can actually afford for the landscape. Because if you ask a customer, well, how long are you going to be in the house? Many people I hear will tell me anywhere from 5 to 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, typical mortgages today is a 30-year mortgage. So if you mortgage the maximum you're going to put into the landscape, let's say general figures it's $50,000, chances are you won't even pay off $18,000 to $20,000 because you do plan on selling that house in that given period of time.
And this is a special edition of Plant Talk this morning. We're talking about your landscape and what to do about making it more beautiful. Dave Peabody is here, along with Fred Hauer, of course, the Ohio nurseryman, coming up next.
This summer at Franklin Park Conservatory and Botanical Gardens, the gardens are in full color. Welcome its tropical and native butterflies in flight in the indoor Pacific Island Water Garden. View the conservatory's bonsai collection and experience the exhibition Origami in the Garden. Find details at fpconservatory.org.
And welcome back to the program. Mark News here alongside Fred Hauer, the Ohio nurseryman, and our special guest today, Dave Peabody from Peabody Landscape. We want to mention, of course, that you can go to our website anytime, planttalkradio.com, and we'd love to see your fall pictures. We've been asking people to send in their fall pictures. If you have a picture of a beautiful landscape or just a beautiful setting from around the state of Ohio, or if you had a terrific garden this summer and you took a picture of it, we'd like to see that as well. So just email those to fred@planttalkradio.com. We'll put them up on the website for the whole world to see.
Let's not forget those people that just sneak up into that state up north, those that are east of us in Indiana, a little into Kentucky. All those people that can hear us at all are welcome to send in those pictures.
Absolutely. We'd love to see your pictures and get them up on our website. We've also been asking you to write in about your maple trees. We've been having a lot of people talk about the maples cracking. They turned red prematurely, and they're having big cracks in the barks. And Dave, you said you've been seeing a lot of this as well, and but you have some theories on what's happening.
Well, one of the things that I noticed particularly this last year was February and March in central Ohio anyway, we virtually had no snow whatsoever. And as a result of that, I think what it alluded to was the possibility of the huge frost crack in that case. No snow cover, and as a result of that, you get a lot of reflection off pavement. Mm-hmm. The ones I saw were in Dublin, Ohio, and Brandon Way, I think is the name of the development, where along the street, especially trees on the north side of the street or the east side of the street, where it would be opposite of the reflection of the sun on the pavement, was severe. Almost some of the exposure of the the wood. The trunk itself was split open about 6 inches.
Yeah, and along with these pictures, then, as David has mentioned, he has seen them in a specific setting, north, south, east, west. If you would, as you send in these pictures, and we hope you will, try to note to us where the direction, the compass direction of the first major split, or perhaps the only one, or let's just say, as we have seen in some trees,